Welcome to Chamber Chat. This is John Tayer, President and CEO of the Boulder Chamber, and I welcome you to our bi-weekly opportunity to check in with our Boulder Chamber membership and the business community at large about some of the things that we're doing around town to support our businesses, lift our economy, and support our community, but also to have a chance to chat with some of our leading community figures who also are engaged with business activities and helping to collaborate with the Boulder Chamber in our mission. And today, I am just so honored to have the chance to introduce all of you to our wonderful new city manager, Nuria Rivera-Vandermyde. She helped me to get her name pronounced. I think I got it right. She'll correct me if I'm wrong. But I've only met her just briefly a couple times and just already can tell that she is clearly a woman who's going to lead us with positive energy, great experience and background. And I'm just so excited for all of you to have a chance to connect with her today. But before I do, just a couple of quick announcements from our end. First of all, just want to make sure that you know about a program that we're going to have on May 20 at 7:30 to 9, and it's Returning Safely, Perspectives on the Return of Boulder's Workforce. Now, why is this important? Well, Boulder has in the past had about 70,000 folks commuting into town, a super important element of our economy, not only helping build the businesses that they work at, but also supporting our economy by eating in our restaurants, shopping in our retail centers. So we want to make sure that they are able safely to come back to work in our community. So we'll be talking about the different approaches our businesses are taking, some of the HR issues that are going to be important for businesses to understand, and legal issues. So make sure to tune in. We're going to have just an excellent panel. Let me just let you know who that is. We're going to be moderated by Giovanni Rashidi from Berg Hill, Greenleaf, and Rashidi. We're going to have Don Knowles from Lexmark, Mark Cicatello, who is an HR consultant with Integrated Human Capital Services. We're going to have Gretchen Wall from FNBO and Joe Thyskull from the Hiltons on Canyon. So just an excellent, diverse group of businesses to give you perspective and also some expert background on some of the HR and legal issues. So make sure to attend. That's May 20, 7:30 to 9 a.m. It's going to be an online event, but you're not going to want to miss it. And then second, we are getting ready for our annual Women Who Light the Community Award event. And there's a special award category that we want to make sure you're aware of, and that is our Emerging Youth Leader. That is a category that is one that's going to be identify a young person in our community who is doing important work and demonstrating their leadership talents and great promise for the future. We give this award in partnership with Alpine Bank, and so want to make sure you're looking for the opportunity to nominate folks, young youth in our community who are deserving of that award at the Women Who Light the Community Award. And that applications are going to be accepted through June 25. So make sure to consider who you think is worthy of that award. And then finally, just want you to know that we at the Boulder Chamber are excited to get back together with our members and our business colleagues and our community friends. And so we are in the process of designing our process for bringing folks together to make sure it's safe, of course, but also that we're meeting everybody's expectations around the appropriate conduct at those meetings. So we're going to be working on that through May. We imagine that in June, we'll start with some hybrid events to allow folks to make decisions about whether or not they want to attend in person or not. But then we will be opening up for much more coming together. By July, we expect to be coming together full on, always offering, though, I think more of this opportunity for some folks to participate online just for convenience purposes, because we've learned a lot about doing those kinds of events and making them interesting. So watch for that. We're looking to get back together with all of you and just want you to know that all the planning that our staff team is doing to get ready to bring us all back together safely and have some fun and networking together. So enough from Boulder Chamber activity side perspective. It's my opportunity now to welcome Nuria Rivera-Vandermyde as our new city manager. And she already is lighting up this community. Just what a wonderful personality. And again, as I mentioned, somebody who I know is going to be wonderful for all of us to work with. So I'll just start by saying, Nuria, thank you so much for joining us on Chamber Chat.
So excited to be here with you. And you were so close on the name.
Exactly.
Vandermyde, not Vandermeade.
Oh, gosh, I knew it. All right. So
With a name like mine, all you got to do is do Nuria.
Nuria, perfect. You're so awesome. So see how comfortable it's just great connecting already with her. So I'm just going to hit up Nuria with the first question, and that is what I think everybody wants to know is, who is Nuria, and just maybe just how your personal life experience and work experience and what values that has helped to bring forward for you into this new position.
Yeah. So I appreciate and I'm so thankful for the invitation, John. It's been great to be so welcomed in this community. I'm on day 3 and everyone has been just terrific. I'll say that I am I'm a recovering lawyer, right? I am somebody who went to law school, practiced for a while, no longer do that. But I love my legal career and my background. It has taught me how to think. It has taught me a valuable perspective in negotiation. And as a former litigator, it, I think, brought to my mind the power of persuasion and storytelling in an unusual place. And I think that has followed me in the different aspects of my job as I move forward. I am from Puerto Rico, so I'm an island girl and miss that occasionally. But I have also been somebody who traveled around a lot. As my father was in the Army as a physician, my mother's from Spain, and we went from Puerto Rico to Spain to Kentucky. And then I went to college on the East Coast and went to law school on the East Coast and practiced in Boston for various years before I went back to Puerto Rico. So I am somebody who has traveled a lot. And I think that has given me a lot of perspective in terms of adapting to community and being mindful that as you go into new communities, that you really have to be thoughtful about what the values and the priorities of that particular community are. And I've learned that particularly working in government. I've been really fortunate to work in cities that remind me a lot of each other. Minneapolis and Austin and now Boulder, I think, share some things in common. You are continuing to try to be inclusive as you think about what economic prosperity means. The cities are talking a lot about racial equity and diversity. We are all struggling to get past the pandemic, but doing so in ways that really make sure that everyone is doing well as that moves forward. There's a lot of reform and a lot of sort of new directions that are taking place in all these communities. And I've been fortunate to work with the chamber and all 3 of them really closely and have really known them to be partners in the work that we as cities do. And so the business community and the impact that the business community has on a city, both not just on an economic playing field, but civically, I think is really important. And the value of partnership has been something that has been a through line through my career. And so I'm thrilled to really see what that looks like with the chamber and all our business partners.
I love it. I will note that we share some common traits, recovering lawyers. I grew up in Boston, so we have that East Coast connection. Neither of us carry any of the accent, which is, I'm not sure that's good. But anyway, I enjoy that. But so I'll just ask you this. So you mentioned the business community and some of the relationship that you've had in other communities with business leaders. I'm wondering what lessons from that experience do you bring and hope to then have with the local Boulder business community?
That's a terrific question because it's been varied and it's different depending on the cities. I'll start with Minneapolis because that was my former city before Austin, right? And so we did a lot of things in with the chamber and with our business communities. I started out as a department head for our contract compliance or for our housing compliance and our commercial compliance. And so we had a lot of conversations with our business community about streamlining the process, about making sure that small businesses kind of knew what the city was expecting when we were coming in. We hosted a lot of focus groups about what are the pain points that you have with the city that we could help work from a regulatory perspective. As I switched roles and became a deputy city coordinator, which is kind of our version in Minneapolis of an administrator, council placed the creation of a new small business team in my hands. And so I got to incubate and develop that group. And with the help of our innovation team, we actually did some terrific things with our small business community. We did a lot of focus groups, and we partnered with individuals, particularly individuals and business entrepreneurs of color, to really think through things that are still remaining in Minneapolis to this day. We created a brand new, easy, open source business portal. So if you wanted to get permitting or you just wanted to know the rules of the game, they gave us we did a journey map with businesses about what are the things that they most want. And then we went one step further and we did it by industry. So the pain points for someone opening a laundromat is going to be different than the pain point of somebody opening a restaurant. And we took a little page out of, I believe it's San Francisco or LA, but they did these sort of guides, industry specific guides that we digitized. So you want to be a restaurant, these are the specific steps and requirements that the city has for you. Or so you want to expand your business, this is what you need to do. And those were wildly popular, but I think they were popular not because we as city did them, but because we actually did them on the advice and the comments that we got from those particular industry leaders. So that was really terrific. I'll say that, there are times when the business community doesn't like cities as much. And so in Minneapolis too, I was at the helm at council's request to look at sick leave and to look at minimum wage. And we had a lot of conversations with community at all levels, from workers to businesses. And there was a lot of concern about what impact will this have on our businesses, and will they jump to another city? Will they leave? Will they have to close? And it is a conversation that required a lot of sensitive, negotiation and data. We really grounded ourselves in data. We partnered with the chamber to really look at what those industry dashboards told us. And then we went one step further, and when we recommended something to council, we asked council to monitor what was happening with our business climate. And so we partnered with the Federal Reserve, who took us on pro bono, which was always nice. And they continue to follow the impact of that $15 minimum wage throughout Minneapolis so that it informs future decisions. So in that case, it was a really good partnership on issues that perhaps we're always on the same side on, right? In Austin, I'm really happy to say that the partnerships I've had both with our chambers, we have a larger chamber of commerce there, but we also have a Latino chamber of commerce, so an African American chamber of commerce, and an Asian American chamber of commerce. So we have quite the conglomerate of chambers there. And we have a downtown Austin alliance, which really focuses on the downtown. And in most of those, in my experience there, has really been focused on tough issues that I know Boulder's going through right now, and that's been homelessness. The chambers in Austin have really stepped up to the plate and said, we don't want to be critical of what the city is doing. We actually want to be a thought partner and a solution partner about what can we do. We share the perspective that every resident should have a dignified place to live and to sleep. And we don't happen to think that is on our sidewalks. And so how can we be part of the solution to move that forward? And the chamber actually just recently sponsored a summit in Austin to talk about that with community partners, community leaders, nonprofit organizations, provider community. It was really great. But to me, it was just really terrific that the chamber took that on in a leadership role, and that we've really been able to establish good coalition about what it looks like to be partners in trying to solve one of the most complex issues that are facing cities everywhere across the nation.
Yeah, you certainly nailed it. I mean, Boulder grappling with that same issue. But I'll just say in general, and we've talked about this already, but we at the Boulder Chamber, and I think our business community at large, wants to be the collaborators in addressing those types of very challenging issues in our community, because they're issues for the economy and for the community that we care about. So look forward to being that partner. I'll also say that example of what you did around permitting and transparency in that space is something that I know we're going to be excited to learn from. So really, just you nailed a couple of key issues there. I will just then hit on one or a couple of things. I mentioned in the open letter to welcoming you to town 3 areas of critical need, and they're somewhat obvious, I'd say, in terms of challenges that communities are facing, and Boulder in particular coming out of this pandemic. But one is responsible economic development. The other is diversity as an imperative, not just for our community, but for our economy. And then third, it's inclusive public engagement. And I'm wondering, just as you read the letter, as you reflect on it, any thoughts you come to the table with in those 3 areas?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I appreciate it. It's not often one comes to a new city and has this open letter just to you, right? So that was kind of fun. I love the questions, and I'll take you up on that opportunity to take a walk across the city. To me, it's the best way to get to know a city as we move forward, and to talk to some of those folks that are in our business community about it. I think that as we're talking about, and I think of your first 2 almost in the same breath. I think thoughtful economic development is important, but I also think it has to benefit all of us. My career has been focused on leaning into racial equity and thinking about what that means in all aspects of that. And so part of that work I did in my prior 2 cities really did have an extreme focus on entrepreneurs of color, because I firmly believe that if one boat rises, all boats rise, as we think about that. And the pain points of thinking about entrepreneurs who perhaps English is not their first language or aren't used to navigating city processes. If we improve that for those folks, imagine how easier it will be for the rest of us as we move forward. And I even recall that I was an entrepreneur myself. I became a consultant after I left Puerto Rico and got married and left to Minneapolis. And it was hard for me. I've been a lawyer, I've been an academic all my life. And all of a sudden here I was opening my new consulting firm of 2 people and had to go figure out how to do that, right? That wasn't in my nature. So I always think of that time in terms of the simplicity of what we do. But I really hope as we move forward that we're thoughtful about the inclusion that we want to see as a community. I'm thoughtful that we want to make sure that we are rich. We are so rich here. I see the arts, I see the food scene, I see musicians, I see the greatness that you have in terms of the types of companies that you've been able to really retain here in Boulder, and some in part because of the focus on climate and open spaces and the natural beauty that certainly attracted me here. But if we're going to keep people here, then we have to be a community that continues to be welcoming and a community that continues to work for all of us. Because if not, I think you're right in your letter that we could be poised to really be too homogenous as we move forward. And I don't think cities thrive that way. I really do think that cities are thriving in diversity. There are various articles about the business case for diversity, and I really take those to heart as we move forward. And then you asked me a little bit about public engagement. And for anyone who happened to watch my interview process, you'll know that I really believe in public engagement in a variety of ways. I think we can always, there's no city that I've been in that the amount of engagement that the city has done is ever enough, right? Both community, whether that's our residential community or our business community, there's always more that people want to know and hear. But I do believe that doing that front loading, that engagement is sort of the better approach. Sometimes it's not about quantity, sometimes it's about quality. And when does that engagement happen? Because so often there are decisions that are made and then we ask people when it's too late to change anything or when we've gone too far down a particular course of action. So I'm going to be curious to continue to learn about the city because, as you know, it is day 3 of my time here. But I'll be continuing to ask questions about upstreaming communication strategies and how are we involving our partners. Certainly the business community is one of those partners. I'm also interested in those voices that we don't often hear. And some of that is youth voices, or it is our most vulnerable populations that we don't hear. So I'm really excited to explore some of those additional avenues of making sure that we are informed by the holistic voice of the community, not just by those that we tend to take for granted sometimes too, that we hear often from.
Yeah, and I'll say that the Boulder Chamber for our end, that's this kind of diverse perspective we also want to have when we're thinking through what's best for our economy, but also at large for our community, which supports us. So we will share that perspective and that effort to gather those unique, diverse voices. I can just say I was listening to you, I'm mesmerized. I mean, I'm just so excited by the way you articulate your vision and the way you approach your job, and I'm very excited to be a partner with you in your success in this new role. And we're going to have a lot of fun together. I know that too. So thank you so much for joining us today on Chamber Chat, and look forward to seeing you day 4 and beyond, many months and years.
Let's make it through the week, right?
Thank
you for having me. It's been a pleasure, and I'm really looking forward to the partnership.
Love it, Nuria. And then I'll just say, to our Chamber Chat listeners, thank you so much for being with us. And also just a reminder, we're going to have that returning safely perspectives on the return of Boulder's workforce. And that's on May 20 from 7:30 to 9 a.m. Make sure to attend. And then also consider what great youth leaders in your community are deserving of being recognized. Make sure to get those nominations in by June 25th. And as I always say at the end of Chamber Chat, listen, we're rounding the corner almost totally on the COVID situation. We're getting more freedom and flexibility. But I want to make sure you're getting your vaccine so that we can all gather and make sure that we're not going to propagate that disease any further. And I will only do this probably one last time, because we don't have to wear it all the time when we're outside. But as I say, be sure to wear that mask when it's appropriate, and we'll see you next time on Chamber Chat.